Oklahoma's own News on 6 starts now.
My fellow Americans, this was not a riot. This was a massacre.
President Joe Biden visits Tulsa to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre.
Before his address, the president spent the afternoon in the Greenwood district, meeting with survivors and touring the Greenwood Cultural Center. This as he announces new steps to narrow what he calls the racial wealth gap in the United States. Thank you for joining us tonight for our special coverage of the president's visit. I'm Leanne Taylor.
And I'm Craig Day. We're told the president is on his way to the airport and will be departing shortly. We want to begin right now our team coverage with News on 6 anchor Lori Fulbright, who is live outside the Greenwood Cultural Center with more, Lori, on President Biden's announcements today.
Hi, Craig and Leanne. Well, the crowds are starting to thin a little bit out here at the Cultural Center. A lot of people were kind of hoping to get a glimpse of the president. The people who are here earlier got a glimpse of his motorcade, but not so much of the president himself. Of course, we'll have more of our coverage here coming up at 6. Back to you.
Thank you, Lori. We are still waiting for the president to leave Greenwood to get to Tulsa International Airport. Let's check in with News on 6's Sawyer Bussey. She is at the airport with more. Sawyer.
That's right, Leanne. There have been so many families coming out here to watch Air Force One in action. Every parent that I've talked to said that politics aside, they just wanted their kids out here to witness history. Sawyer Bussey, Oklahoma's own, News on 6.
People came to Tulsa from several parts of the country for a chance to see the president in the Greenwood district. News on 6's Amy Slanchik joins us live at OSU Tulsa with more. Amy?
Hey, Craig, the crowd is starting to thin out just a bit, but still a decent amount of people out here that have just been out here all day patiently waiting for hopefully a chance to see the president. And of course, we'll hear more about that later. And for now, we're live in Tulsa. Amy Slanchik, Oklahoma's own, News on 6.
Amy, thank you. We have more of our team coverage from News on 6's Emery Bryan.
He joins us live near Vernon AME Church. Emery?
Well, here on North Greenwood Avenue, where just after the speech, we caught up with two of the newfound celebrities from the speech. Early on in the speech, Joe Biden talked about two little girls. He said he had to give those girls some money for ice cream. We found those girls afterward and talked to their mom about how this came to be. And we have proof they did get that ice cream tonight at 9 and 10. Kristen Weaver will have the truth about the ice cream incident with President Joe Biden. Reporting live on Greenwood, Emery Bryan, Oklahoma's own News on 6.
Going to have the scoop on the ice cream story.
Well done.
You don't usually get that in the first block of news. Now let's go to News on 6's Reagan Ledbetter, who also talked to some people in the Greenwood district.
That's right. Reagan, what have you seen today?
Well, it's been buzzing out here on Greenwood today, Craig and Leanne. A lot of people coming out here just for one, touring Greenwood. They heard a lot about it, people from out of town, but also people came downtown hoping to get a glimpse of the president. I probably had about 20 people or so run up to me and ask if the president's going to drive through Greenwood, but unfortunately he didn't. And pretty much everybody I talked to today said that they're just glad the president came. That shines some light on what happened 100 years ago today. Live in Tulsa, Reagan Ledbetter, Oklahoma's own News on 6.
Continuing to watch what's happening there. The president now just leaving here at 5:08 after spending time at the Greenwood Cultural Center. His motorcade leaving behind the Cultural Center, making its way back to Tulsa International Airport.
Yeah, right now, Stacia mentioned during our 4 o'clock newscast, obviously this is causing some traffic issues for folks who get off work downtown at 5 o'clock, but they'll just have to be patient because they'll shut down the highway going from 244 over to Highway 75. Then they'll take Highway 11 over to the airport. At least that's the reverse of the route that they took coming into downtown Tulsa to the Greenwood district. So that motorcade is moving right now. So within the next 10 minutes or so, the president will be back at Tulsa International Airport, if not sooner, and aboard Air Force One and head back to Washington.
We're really fortunate to have the Skycam right here in downtown.
Absolutely.
A lot of folks aren't able to see this, so we're continuing to follow that. And of course, we will update you once he gets to the airport and once Air Force One takes off.
And And they're going to be cruising about a half a block away from our station. And the good news is it wasn't 24 hours ago when it was pouring rain and drizzle and just a mess of weather. What's ahead? It was a record cool start to June, tracking more wet weather. And also, when will we see the sun? There's a chance of it coming up in the weather shortly.
That sounds great. Thanks, Trav. Some Oklahomans who got COVID-19 say they are still experiencing symptoms months after they recovered. An area doctor has some suggestions on how folks can feel better.
And this is really interesting. Out of our News on 6 Washington Bureau, some folks across the country can now learn about the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre at the Smithsonian.
And crews made some serious progress out here at Oak Lawn Cemetery. I'll have the latest on the mass grave excavations after this break.
A full excavation is underway at Tulsa's Oak Lawn Cemetery as archaeologists try to learn whether mass graves there are connected to the race massacre.
Crews found 12 coffins with human remains during a test excavation last fall.
News on 6's Amy Kaufman joins us now from Oak Lawn Cemetery with more on what's happening today. Amy?
Well, Leanne and Craig, crews got a late start today because of the rain that we've been seeing. They said the ground was really soft. They were supposed to start at 10 this morning, but actually started at noon. But here they're still working out here at Oak Lawn. They say this is an area where they know there's a mass grave. They just don't know if these are for sure victims of the race massacre. But they started by removing the overburden, which means they took out the first few feet of soil from a small part of what's believed to be a larger mass grave. And they say they plan to do this in segments so they don't expose the mass grave all at once. And obviously a very historic day to start this. Archaeologists say this could take several months, even the end of summer, to complete. Live in Tulsa, Amy Kaufman, Oklahoma's own News on 6.
Okay, the clouds and rain, are they here to stay across the Osage Casino Skycam network?
Travis is going to tell us when we might see the sun later in the week.
An Oklahoma ear, nose, and throat doctor says he's seeing a lot of patients still feeling the effects of COVID-19 long after actually recovering from the virus.
Dr. Ed Boyd says about 10% of people who have recovered from COVID-19 have a hard time regaining their sense of taste and smell. Dr. Boyd says the virus can cause swelling and damage to the nerves at the roof of the nose, which is where the sense of smell is transmitted to the brain. He says the nerves can regenerate and patients can do exercises to get the sense of smell back.
From the Bob Mills Weather Center, the Oklahoma weather expert, Travis Meyer.
All right, we just wanted to briefly mention this. Of course, the president's leaving downtown right now. And it's kind of a bottleneck downtown because everything's closed down. So again, if you're traveling around the metro, especially in the IDL area and then on 244, everything's slowed way down until the president gets out of here, and then we'll go back to normal. But just wanted to point that out. So don't expect to speed across the areas and get into downtown over the next 30 or 45 minutes. Stacia had more on that earlier at 4 o'clock. All right, let's take a look at what's going on. In the afternoon, I get to say partly sunny and mean it. Temperatures be in the low 60s. You can see the president getting ready to board Air Force One. We're looking for rain chances to be very, very limited through the next couple of days, so there is some welcome news there. And we're talking about our chance of rain as we extend the forecast is actually dropping off to almost near zero. So again, if you've been complaining about rain, the odds of rain are just slight, and then it kind of goes to a little less. And it all has to do with the jet stream changing. And the jet stream pattern is going to change just enough over the course of the next week that we're actually going to feel some June weather coming in next week. Not this week, but next week, as we start to get warmer and we're going to dry out. It's going to feel more breezy, temperatures in the 80s, so it'll be very interesting, and the storm track starts to move away from us. Our forecast, 63 at 9 o'clock. We're looking at 60 in the morning, so we're not going anyplace with a chance of a shower or thunderstorm as we go into the afternoon. Still hanging in there at about 20%. Only a slight chance of isolated showers beyond that. Check this out, 80s, lows in the 60s to near 70, and that is basically some really nice weather. Can't complain about what's going on there. So there's some welcome news, and it looks like back to Craig and Leanne.
Thank you very much, Travis. And we have been monitoring the president as he left Greenwood moments ago, now arriving at Tulsa International Airport and preparing to board Air Force One. We're going to stay with this coverage until he gets out of the car, gets onto the plane, and gets out of town. But what an incredible day for Tulsa to be in the national spotlight.
Absolutely, and we do want to let people know that since President Biden is now at Tulsa International Airport, all the roads that Travis told you about just moments ago they have since reopened. So folks that were bottlenecked trying to get home from work, they'll probably be home before too awful long. You can see the president climbing the staircase to board Air Force One after being in Tulsa to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa race massacre, saying we must pay attention to this, open our eyes. It's been hidden for way too long, far too long, and that he is here to bring light to what happened 100 years ago.
Well, this has been, as we've talked about, a lot of people have been watching as the president has made his way to Air Force One now, and of course the entourage that will be boarding as well. He'll be headed back to Washington, but I know many people, and of course our coverage will continue to what he said today and how that has impacted our community here, and certainly as they talk about reconciliation on this, the 100th anniversary of the race massacre.
He also introduced some policy issues while in Tulsa. We will go into that coming up on News on 6 at 6 as well, a deeper look at that having to do with home ownership for minorities and business investment for minorities. And right now he's going to increase the requirement of 10% of federal contracts going to minority-owned businesses. He's going to increase that to 15%. So that's a part of the policy initiative that he unveiled today in Tulsa.
Well, we know that it'll take a while for them to get everybody on board. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll have more of the coverage here in just a moment.
We ran out of time, so we hope to bring you Alex Cameron's story from Washington coming up on a later newscast.
And of course, we'll continue to monitor as the President of the United States gets ready to leave Tulsa International Airport, headed back to Washington, D.C. Our team coverage, though, will continue coming up at 6 here in about 30 minutes, and we look forward to seeing you back here then.
We'll see you then. Thanks for joining us.